When we look at the Calder race for this next NHL season, one player has always been the frontrunner for me, and that is Ivan Demidov of the Montreal Canadiens. But he's a special case, somebody that I have adored watching for a long time and easily has been one of my favorite prospects to watch in my life. I'm just so incredibly fascinated to see how Ivan Demidov does in his rookie season in the NHL, and that led me down a path of wondering how many points could Demidov get in his rookie season? Could it be enough to win the Calder Trophy? And how do I think his rookie season is going to go? So let's do a deep dive on the #1 Montreal Canadiens prospect to see what he's capable of and what could happen next in his career. And of course, make sure you guys watch till the end and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey prospect content just like this all throughout the year. Now, if we're just taking into account talents when it comes to players entering their rookie seasons, I think Demidov has the potential to have one of the best rookie seasons over the last decade. Honestly, if Demidov was a rookie after he was drafted, I think he would have done just fine. He was spectacular in the KHL, being one of the best players there, 49 points in 65 games, and looking great in the playoffs, and then headed over to the Montreal Canadiens, where the 2 games he played at the end of the year were insane. It felt like he was instantly Montreal's best, most dynamic player. In the playoffs, it was a little bit of a different story. He wasn't quite as noticeable as maybe you'd want him to be, and a couple of defensive mistakes here and there were a little bit rough, but it's also the NHL playoffs. For somebody that only played 2 NHL games before that, I'm willing to cut him some slack. And especially in that series versus a really good Washington team, there really weren't a ton of other Montreal Canadiens who were doing all that much better either. So I think in a lot of ways we can kind of ignore that just a little bit. But as I talked about before, Demidov is one of the most talented players that I've ever scouted, I've ever watched genuinely. He would be honestly top 5, top 3. Again, just off pure talent alone, what Demidov is capable of with the puck on his stick, his handles, his quick decision making, his unbelievable sense of space and anticipation. He just has all the makings of an offensive superstar, and that's what he's always been, whether it be the MHL or the KHL, and what he's now done at the NHL level. Obviously, the jury's still out on how much Demidov is capable of at the NHL level, but I think what we've seen so far points to somebody that can really control the game offensively, lead his line, bring some incredible speed, and especially the difference, I would say, between last year and this year, I think the speed is the biggest thing, especially with his skating ability. He looks a lot faster, a lot sharper with his edges, and that I think is going to help a player who already was pretty crafty. Now, there is still going to be things to iron out like every single rookie in the NHL, especially over the course of an 82-game season. We saw in that preseason game against Pittsburgh, that rough hit that Robbie Fabry laid against him, that Demidov might need a bit more time to get better anticipation of the physical intensity that the NHL is going to bring. Because as much as the KHL is still a really good pro league, I think the physicality and the intensity in it has really taken a big drop off over the last few years. So I think that's something that especially Demidov's going to have to learn very, very quickly, is that you're not going to get that time and space. You're not going to get especially the physical leeway that you would have gotten otherwise. But still, I think this is somebody that has really grown and really gained a lot of muscle over the last couple of seasons too. So even though there might be some times where you want to see him be a bit better with his positioning and protecting himself at least, I think at least handling the physical play is not going to be a weakness whatsoever. And with those weaknesses out of the way, we can talk about the strengths with his stick handling and the deking and the just high-level offensive brain here. This is something that I think Montreal desperately needs within this top 6. They have quite a few really interesting players, guys that can do really good things in their own ways, but nobody that comes close to just the pure baseline skill level that Demidov provides on a shift-to-shift basis. I love me some guys like Cole Caulfield. Nick Suzuki can drive a line in a lot of ways, and players like Laine have their great goal-scoring attributes, but Demidov is just a pure play driver in every sense of the word and just does stuff that very few people are capable of on this planet. And I think that is going to be a revelation for that Habs top 6. It already was a decent one, especially with that top line rolling as much as it did last year. But I think having that next wave of scoring is going to do Montreal wonders. At least having somebody that has the capabilities of Demidov, especially on the power play. I mean, him and Caulfield and Laine and Hudson on the same power play is just going to be monstrous. Or at least that's how they have it right now. If that first power play unit having Slafkovsky, Suzuki, Demidov on the right side, then Caulfield as the lefty spot, and then Lane Hudson there right in that position. And honestly, no notes. I think that's exactly what it should be. Maybe you want to have Laine in that Slafkovsky spot potentially, but I think it'll do just fine for now. You got a good mix of a lot of different players here. I think Caulfield kind of in that goal scoring spot works pretty well too. So I don't even think the need for Laine is as much as you would have needed beforehand. Now, we talked a ton today already about how good Demidov might be, what I think he is capable of, how good I think he is right now, but let's talk about how many points Demidov could get and why I do think he'll ultimately ultimately be the Calder Trophy winner. Now, the thing is, this Calder Trophy race is unbelievably stacked. You're going to have so many different players from so many different teams here, but especially on the defensive side, I really like the crop of guys like Zane Parekh, Sam Renzel. You got players like Jimmy Snuggerud, who I think will be major factors as well. Even guys like Isaac Howard, if they pop, and they could have really good chances of being Calder Trophy winners. Even Yaroslav Askarov on the goaltending side from San Jose. There's just so much depth here and so many different variety of players, and that's what excites me the most. But out of all those guys, even though I think players like Renzel and Parekh especially will put up some pretty good fights, I just don't think anybody is quite in the position of Demidov to just take over a team and will their way to so many goals and so much production. At the end of the day, Demidov is a super high-end creative player with so much high-end offense, but he's also just really good at scoring, being productive, putting his teammates in good position to score, and that's ultimately why I think he'll find so much success early on. There might be some moments still physically and maybe at points defensively where you want still a bit more from him, but at the same time, the offense is more than going to make up for it, and I would not be surprised if he maybe switches with Slafkovsky's spot on that first line at some point. But as it stands, Demidov is on the second line, and I will be honest, I do think there's a good chance that that does end up sticking and staying the case throughout the course of the season, which is maybe one of my bigger concerns when it comes to the Demidov-Calder race. And let me explain that for a second, because I think for Montreal, even though Demidov will make a big difference for them, the middle six is kind of a big question mark for them right now. Line A is, I think, somebody that is looking good personally, but still has to prove himself a lot, of course, staying healthy and also being at the level goal-scoring wise that he needs to be consistently. He had some great moments for Montreal last year, but again, has some massive defensive deficiencies that do kind of have to be covered up. And then, of course, you have the biggest question mark, I think, on the team in Kirby Dach as that second line center. I mean, I don't even think he's, let me know if I'm wrong in the comments down below. You guys definitely will. I don't even think he's played a preseason game so far, and he didn't really look amazing in the practices we saw, or at least wasn't at the physical level that we maybe wanted to be at. It just wasn't really sparking much confidence within me that he's going to be that definitive second line center that Montreal, I think, quite frankly, needs. That's kind of one of my biggest reasons why I do see Montreal just barely missing the playoffs, is that center depth, but I think Kirby Dach is the biggest issue here. He's put up some great stretches. Again, those 2 games in 2023-24 to start of the year were magnificent. He was looking spectacular. And if Dach can get to like 80% of that, I think Montreal's in a good spot. But it is still a massive question mark. It is still a massive unknown for this team. And if Dach is pedestrian, that's going to affect Demidov's production quite a bit. The thing is, I don't think Demidov's production power play-wise is going to be much of a problem. I think that power play unit is going to be monstrous and will be one of the best we've seen from Montreal, really in modern memory. So I think Demidov's still going to have some good production just because of that. But at 5-on-5, I could see it being a slight struggle, especially if Dach and Line A are banged up, not consistent. That could affect him a little bit. That's kind of the worst case scenario, I would say, but overall, I think it's going to be good enough. I don't think it's going to quite be amazing or anything, but I think that second line will get the job done. The biggest problem, though, again, is the health. Line A has not stayed healthy. Dach especially has not stayed healthy. This is the healthiest he's been in a long time, but it's still kind of feeling that game pace, trying to get back into the swing of things even today. So that could cause some problems to start things out. Selfishly, just because I want Demidov to do well, I kind of just want to see him switch with Slafkovsky, but I don't really feel like Slafkovsky is a great fit on that second line, especially with Kirby Dach, so I don't know. It's kind of a rock and a hard place here for Montreal, but I think the hope is that Demidov is going to be able to lift that second line up and, hey, get a few great assists with Patrik Laine, which, again, if healthy, I think is going to automatically be the case. I don't think it's really possible to have the goal scoring of Patrik Laine and the playmaking of an Ivan Demidov and not score a few goals here and there. So again, at the very least, I think it'll tread water, but if injuries come into play, that's all washed away. The good thing is that Montreal has improved the wing depth just a little bit. You got Zach Bolduc in the Logan Mailloux trade in this offseason, who I think will do very well for them, and if he needs to, could step into the second line spot, and I think do pretty well there. Again, nothing fantastic or anything, but I think get the job done. But there's nobody that I think would quite be able to fill that spot center-wise if Dach ends up getting injured. Newhook is fine, Evans is fine, but I don't think they're quite on the offensive level that I want to see to really be a great center option for Demidov. Of course, things could change. Maybe Dach has the breakout season, Newhook has a breakout season, or maybe they don't and they're able to find a way to trade for Mason McTavish or something. Who the heck knows? But I just think in Demidov's case, the big limiting factor is the centers he has to work with. Unless in a week they say, hey, let's put him on the first line with Nick Suzuki, then problem solved, I guess. Something that maybe could help Demidov with that center situation not being ideal is just how many options he has to work with defensively, with Lane Hutson, of course, being a great option to work with from the power play, but also Noah Dobson, who's coming into the fold as the Habs' major addition from this offseason, another big-time offensive defenseman who the Habs hope to see get back to kind of that 2024 level where he's getting 70 points on the year. I don't know if he's going to be quite up to that task since Hutson's going to take up a lot of the power play time there, but you have a good puck mover that Demidov can work off of, which is, I think, a huge addition for Montreal. Lane Hutson was really the generator completely on that defense, but now at Dobson, they have a second option, which I think is huge, because I think most of the time, you're probably going to have Hutson with that first line to try to maximize the results, so having a second offensive D like Dobson to play with and to try to get some success with is going to be huge for. Now, before we get into my official prediction for Demidov's final point totals and how I see him stacking up in this Calder race, I do want to give a massive shout out to the channel members here on the channel. All of their names will be up here on the screen. Massive shout outs to all you guys for supporting the channel here. And if you guys want to help support the channel, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button on the screen or hit the link in the description down below. And for a couple bucks a month, you get exclusive videos every single week, exclusive member polls that show up here in videos, plus a custom emoji and custom role in the Discord. A lot of nice perks there. But getting back into things, without further ado, let's get into what I predict for Demidov's rookie season, the final point totals, and what I think is realistic to expect. Now, it's pretty fascinating to see the difference in Calder Trophy winners over the last 10 years, because you have in 2015, you have Aidan Delaney, and then the next 3 seasons after that, we had really good Calder winners back-to-back years, with Artemi Panarin getting 77 points, Austin Matthews 69 points and 40 goals, then Matthew Barzal putting up an 85-point season and one of the best rookie years we've seen in modern memory. But it feels like the Calder Trophy kind of goes through ebbs and flows, really high highs, and then goes through a few lows for a bit, and then returns to high highs. I mean, you have players like Alex Ovechkin and Evgeny Malkin with back-to-back great rookie seasons, Patrick Kane the next year. Then you had Calder winners like Tyler Myers a couple of seasons later. Then, of course, a few years later, we get Panarin and Matthews on Barzal. And then since then, it's kind of been up in the air. We've had some really solid players, some really good ones, but not quite the point totals that have been quite as high as maybe some people would expect. And that's kind of the biggest thing that I think might limit Demidov as well, is just how much the league has changed, how deeper it's gotten, and also how much harder it is for these younger players to make an immediate, unbelievable impact. I think for a lot of people saying that Demidov's going to get even more than 90 points, honestly, I think it's pretty unrealistic. One, because I don't think Montreal is quite running that way. They never really had a player up to that level immediately, especially. Nick Suzuki's taken a long time to even get to the level he has gotten. But even with all the upgrades there, I still see it being more of a balanced team in general, which is why Lane Hutson didn't get past the 66-point marker, even though that rookie season has been spectacular for rookie D-man. I think in Demidov's case, though, we're kind of going to see something in the middle. I do think we will see the most points since any rookie since Matthew Barzal, but as you can see, over the last 10 years, since 2015, we've only seen 2 rookies get past the 69-point mark, and that was Panarin in 2016 and Barzal in 2018. So history shows us, especially recently, that rookies can have a great season, but not quite have the production that maybe you would want. And even though I think Demidov is going to blow past it, I think he's going to set a new marker, I do think ultimately he'll not be quite the point-per-game player that he has the potential to be, and I think will end up becoming. But because of how well I see Demidov doing on the power play and just how good of a force I think he will be for Montreal, I do think he'll have a spectacular, sensational rookie season and still end up winning the Calder Trophy. I don't think we're quite going to see 80 points or anything, 90 points, but ultimately, I think Ivan Demidov in 2026 will score 71 points in his rookie season, which is an incredible rookie year, to be fair. Again, I do think the center situation will hold him back a little bit, and consistency throughout the year. There might be some ebbs and flows like every single rookie recently. So I think we're going to see that kind of affect Demidov's rookie point totals. But at the same time, in this era with how competitive every game is, to get to that level, I still don't think is a massive success, especially for a 19-year-old. So even though I don't think he'll get quite to the 80-point plateau, he's going to get it, I think, the very next season. I think with how much Montreal is growing, I think Demidov could absolutely become an 100-point scorer one day. We'll see how many of those he ends up getting, but I think Montreal has a bright future with this kid. Even though I don't think Demidov's going to be quite at the point-per-game level, he's still going to be electric. He's still going to get some butts off of seats and really make that Bell Center as loud as it's ever been. He's going to have some spectacular moments, and no matter how many points he ends up getting, I'm just excited to watch this guy play some hockey. But those are my thoughts on how Demidov could do in his rookie season, how many points he'll end up getting, and my predictions for that. And if you guys enjoyed, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe and hit the notification bell for more hockey videos just like this. And a big thank you to the channel members. Their names will be on the screen once again. Thank you guys so much for that. And if you guys want to become a channel member, just hit the join button below. And if you guys want to comment down below your thoughts on my predictions, do you agree? Do you disagree with it? Do you think he'll get higher, he'll lower than 71 points? Let me know your thoughts down below on that. And shout out to all the hockey, all the Habs fans you guys know online. Click the card up here for more hockey prospect talk, and I will see you in the next one. Make sure you drink some water, get some sun while you still can before winter hits, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.